Good evening, Wildcat and Jayhawk fans, and welcome to The Drive, sponsored by FlintHillsAuto.com. I am Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com, and filling in for Tom Keegan tonight, thankfully, is WIBW Sports Director Chris Lilly. Yeah. Tom had a little family wedding. He leaves town.
Coincidentally on Labor Day weekend, too. Mm-hmm.
And KU wins.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there's
cause and effect. Cause and effect. Yeah, I'm going to hand this one to Tom. You can interact with us on social media at Facebook.com/The Drive Show, on Twitter at The Drive 13, and of course, check out previous episodes, answer our weekly poll question. I mean, if you missed Tom, you can go check out a previous episode. Make your game predictions at thedriveshow.com. We will start things off with our 2-minute drill, and getting us started is Chris Lilly.
Yep, K-State scored three quick touchdowns in the final 6 minutes of the first half to blow open the game and cruise to a 55-19 victory Saturday night over Central Arkansas. How good were the Cats, Fitz?
They were good, but they weren't great, even though that score looks pretty good. And this is, let's not be fooled here, this is a pretty decent Central Arkansas team.
They were good.
They're ranked 15th in the country at the FCS level, and they returned a ton of players. I think they might be a little bit underrated, actually, for their level. We'll see how their season plays out. But they came in with a good game plan. They gave K-State some problems with some things that they schemed that they had never shown before. But K-State proved, if you want to step up, crowd the line of scrimmage and stop the run against K-State, Jesse Yurts and company can go deep. Jesse was unbelievably good in this game.
Dialed in.
But the star of the game, of course, was DJ Reed, who had the opening kickoff that went 96 yards before he ran out of gas. Yes, DJ, you ran out of gas.
Conditioning.
He had a punt return. He did not like that Coach Snyder said that. He had a punt return for a touchdown and an interception, but there were stars all around for the Wildcats, and I just love this return. Look at the blocking on this play. He said, I just saw green and I ran to it.
He only had to make like 2 moves.
Yeah, it was amazing. K-State special teams are special once again, but this guy was on point the entire game, and a touchdown here for 70 yards to Dalton Schoen, a walk-on who has broken into the rotation, and he looked good.
That he did.
Kansas State is going to be a pretty good football team this year. We knew that offensively, and the questions just are on defense, and we come away from game one knowing the questions are still on defense.
Yeah. Jesse Ertz looked, like you said, unbelievable throwing the ball, him throwing downfield, and he was efficient too. The most efficient game in K-State history, which was incredible to watch. But yeah, the defense, they had some work to do.
Yeah, they ran an option, being the Bears of Central Arkansas, ran some option that they'd never shown before, at least on the film K-State watched from last season, and it really gave K-State a lot of problems. And that was troubling, but you won't see a lot of option in the Big 12. That's the good news. You'll see a lot of throwing. So different tests will arrive once conference play gets here. Well, Kansas opened the season with a 38-16 victory over Southeast Missouri State to move to 1-0 on the season. How needed was this victory for Coach David Beatty's program?
It was big because you get a win. We've seen the worst in 2015, 2 wins last year, and that air raid offense finally looked like what David Beatty has been trying to implement, and Peyton Bender, him right there, he looked like the real deal. He did throw 2 interceptions, but had a good game besides that in his Jayhawk debut. And there's the Houston native Steve Sims Jr. ripping off a long touchdown. He had a terrific game as well. 4 catches, 142 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That one went for 77 yards. The offense was clicking. There's another great throw. Maybe the catch of the year, Chase Harrell. One-handed corner of the end zone. Look at just the touch Bender had all game. That's something I kind of told you that the Jayhawks had been lacking, was the confidence to throw those touch passes downfield in the end zone. And it was just, Bender brought this swagger about him that they kind of had been missing. And that's the way you start off a season, 1-0. Who knows what can happen after that?
Exactly, and this is good scheduling. Now, let's just be blunt here.
It's perfect.
They scheduled down a little bit, and they got their win. They feel better about themselves going into back-to-back MAC games. Next up was Central Michigan, and then Ohio. This is sets up nicely, and it strikes me that this team look like it's got a couple years in the system under its belt and it's ready to go.
Yeah, he's just, and the receivers were running great routes, catching the balls that he was throwing to them. So everything you could have asked for out of Peyton Bender. I don't know how he could have played, necessarily any better, minus the 2 interceptions, but they got the win at home. It was a big
Defensively,
win.
with a team like SEMO scoring that many points, a concern?
I would not say so. Yeah, they settled down after the first half, and they scored one a little later. So I think the defense for the Jayhawks looked good.
Well, we'll see how we're going to get into a little bit later the possibilities of where the season could lead for the Jayhawks, and And I know this, David Beatty's one heck of a good guy.
Yeah.
You kind of got to root for him, even as a K-State guy. I have a lot of respect for him. So we'll see where the season takes them.
Yeah.
But
And he's a master motivator.
yeah,
So.
they deserve a little more success than they've been seeing.
Yeah, the good came from the teams expected to contend for the Big 12 title, and the bad came in the form of opening home losses for new coaches at Baylor and Texas. Let's break down week 1 of Big 12 football.
Wow.
It was wild.
Baylor, look, let's be blunt. We mentioned that KU and K-State both played FCS competition, got their wins, felt good. That didn't work out so well for Baylor. They played Liberty and got death. A little historical quote there. It was really just a horrific start for Matt Rule's program. And I think that program's going to go through some real growing pains as they try to recover from the scandal there, and the scandal looms over them still, even with this game. We'll get into that later. Texas, though, back to scheduling. If you hire a new coach like Tom Herman,
You want CMOs of the world.
you get rid of Maryland off your schedule.
Yeah, instantly.
You call Maryland and say, look, we're Texas, we're going to buy you out of this game, or we're going to move the game back, whatever
And
works.
we're going to bring in UTEP.
Yeah, or Texas Southern.
Yeah.
We're going to bring in someone.
San Marcos, come on up.
We're going to win a game, and everything Texas worked on, all the talk, all the bluster, all the discipline, all the belief from the fans, one game and it's gone, and you got to rebuild all that.
Cloud of smoke. They had a pick 6 to open up the game, and so the Tom Herman honeymoon era lasted 18 minutes, about give or take, and then it was down the drain.
It's unbelievable. But
But that's what you get when you play a Big 10 game right out of the gate, and your new coach. It's rough. It was a rough day.
And if not for plays like this, Texas would have been absolutely annihilated. I just don't know. I can't fathom that Texas accomplishes being this bad around the edges, coach after coach after coach.
And they're ranked 23, so it's another classic example of going into a season. Who would have thought? Oh, Texas was overrated.
Yeah, it seems like they always get to arrive before they arrive.
Yeah,
And that's the benefit
absolutely.
of being in Texas. Imagine this: Texas is 3 spots behind K-State in the poll heading into the season. Makes no sense at all.
And they look night and day, different teams.
Absolutely, it's crazy.
Yep, now a quick look at our poll question results. Poll questions are brought to you by Film at 11, your go fast, look good, play hard custom shop. Last week's question was, who finishes first in the Big 12 regular season? A, Kansas State, 70% there. Oklahoma, 10%. Oklahoma State, 20% thought that. And West Virginia got no love, 0%, and no fill-in votes.
We need more viewers in West Virginia, clearly. Yeah. We're clearly a Kansas-based show.
Yeah,
as the
with
Wildcat
some
fans showed
Oklahoma
up. Yes,
scattered.
exactly. This week's question is about K-State. Since you think they're going to win the Big 12, how many regular season games do you think K-State will win? 12, which would be an undefeated regular season before you get into conference championship. 11, 10, 9, or 8 or fewer. Those are your choices. Get over to the driveshow.com and get your votes in. We want to see. I think we had 10 people vote last time. We had 70,
we'll get that way
20, 10. It was just perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
We need more voters.
That will do it for this half of the 2-minute drill, but we'll be right back with more on KU and K-State on The Drive.
Welcome back to The Drive as we continue our weekly 2-minute drill.
It was Jesse Ertz on offense and DJ Reed on special teams and defense. How good were these two players in setting a tone for the new season?
Well, at GoPowerCat.com, we pick a PowerCat of the game every week, and it was pretty clear it was DJ Reed, but boy, then you stop and look at Jesse Ertz, what he did, and you're like, maybe it should have been him. You know, first of all, DJ Reed was multifaceted in what he did, but Jesse Ertz had the highest single-game quarterback rating in Kansas State University history, and he only threw 16 passes. He completed 10 passes for 333 yards and 4 touchdowns.
And they weren't dinks and dunks. He was looking downfield. And I thought he answered some questions because there was maybe some doubt from the outside of, Jesse Ertz, he's a great runner, but who knows what he can do through the air. And some of those balls were perfect.
I think a lot of people around the conference have made the mistake of not realizing how injured his shoulder was last year and thinking that's his arm. That's not his arm. This was his arm, and it was very impressive. And this is Kansas State's new return game. Do you want to kick it to DJ Reed, or do you want to kick it to Byron Pringle? They were both back on both kickoffs and punts, and it's really a dangerous thing. So teams are just going to try to kick it out of bounds.
Yeah.
DJ Reed with his first interception. Kendall Adams with a nice tackle of his teammate there as they collided. Oops. But this is just beautiful, and it's easy on DJ. Now, granted, he's moving at a high speed, but he's just gone, and he really reads one block, and that's all it took, and he had an escort all the way into the end zone. Kansas State has always been good on special teams, but Chris, it struck me that this team might be better than I remember, and think of what that says. Maybe it goes back to the David Allen era, which is a long time ago.
Yeah, they've had good returns even as late. Morgan Burns before that, Tyler Lockett, and now they have kind of two high-caliber guys back there. Ooh, defenses, beware. Look out.
Yeah, it really is something else to watch. Kansas State takes special teams so seriously, and it pays off. But Jesse Ertz looks like a completely different cat, and if he can stay healthy through the year, defenses are really going to have problems with him because they didn't run the ball that well. I mean, Central Arkansas did a nice job of crowding the line, taking away that run.
And he took full advantage of it.
And that's exactly what you're going to, pay the price. You're going to die quickly or die slowly between the pass and the run at Kansas State. Well, Peyton Bender got a start at quarterback for Kansas, and he threw for 364 yards and just 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Former coach Mark Mangino returned and was honored by KU, and the Jayhawks won the game. Does this feel like a chance for KU football to rediscover itself? It kind of felt like a new beginning, even though it's, year 3?
Yeah, I thought so, yeah. And Bender became the first KU quarterback since Todd Reesing, of course, in 2009 to throw for 4 touchdowns in a single game. It's been that long. Not bad for not being named the starting quarterback until Saturday before the game. But moving forward, I think Bender provides a real chance for the Jayhawks to grow and for Beatty to continue to build that program. It's been a hill upwards, but it looks like he's continuing that way. And then Bender made some terrific throws down the field, something like I said the Jayhawks been missing for years. Like, look at this one down the sidelines. It gives this receiver a chance to make the catch. And I think it was symbolic that 2007 Orange Bowl team was in the house, and Mark Mangino, the best team to ever put on a Kansas uniform, witnessing kind of maybe the start of a new era for the Jayhawks going forward. I mean, you see he was wiping away tears. Obviously, the moment meant a lot to him. To kind of be back after their unceremonious departure.
Yeah, that was
a very
cool
cool
awkward
moment.
Situation. I feel good that Kansas had a feel good night, and now they have to back it up.
Yeah.
They have to start turning the schedule into something special.
And it has the opportunity to be.
Exactly. I just don't know where it's going to end up for KU. You have to start believing in yourself, and that's Bill Snyder said that was the biggest thing to overcome at Kansas State was the locker room, not the opponent, the inside their own locker room, and guys not believing and they could get the job done. And really, if you get some wins going, you got the Texas win from last season, and that carries over.
Yeah, absolutely. And the worst thing that could have possibly have happened was Kansas lay an egg against SEMO. Like, that would have been terrible. And so you get the win, albeit an FCS school, but you get that and you start that momentum going forward. And now, they could be really good, but we'll see.
Another key when Kansas State made the climb up out of the cellar was teams came down to them. And is it possible a school like Baylor could be coming down the ladder at the same time Kansas trying to climb?
Absolutely.
You got to put your foot on someone's shoulder and climb over the top of them. And
at least start leapfrogging people. Texas could be there as well.
Exactly. We could only hope. And now we step out of bounds, and we touched on this earlier, but let's revisit this topic. Baylor lost to Liberty. Where its former athletics director Ian McCaw is now the AD, and Turner Gill of KU is the head coach.
Old friend alert.
Is there anything wrong with folks in the Big 12, Chris, getting a chuckle out of Baylor suffering?
I don't think so. I think it's karma comes around. It was bound to happen, and people like seeing people suffer when they've done terrible, atrocious things, and I think that's kind of what's happening. Not surprising.
Personally, Baylor can't suffer enough for me. I'm sorry, I hate to be that way. It's petty, but how they built their program, now that we know how they built their program.
And it's not allegedly, it had happened.
It happened, and we know that they were playing players at almost any school would not be on the field, let alone on the team, and Baylor was using those guys to win football games simply because they were horrible human beings and doing bad things off the field to their fellow students, but they could help the school win games. And as I've always said, I'm double offended because it's a religious school, and I find that highly offensive that that's how things happen. So, karma, go sit on Baylor's chest for a long time.
And people wanted a death penalty, and I think this might be maybe the step below that. It's obviously, they're done with their football team is still there, but people are rooting for them to be very bad for a very long time, and I could be that way.
I had someone tell me Baylor was going to be the dark horse of the conference, and I laughed.
Like, dark horse for what?
Yes, apparently a dark horse for last.
And now let's hear from the fans. Our fan questions are sponsored by Howie's Recycling and Trash Service. Our first fan question is, Fitz, what happened to GoPowerCat.com? Did you change networks? From Joe SW via Twitter.
Well, yes, we did change networks. It's a little confusing for everyone. We left the Rivals.com network, where we've been for 19 years, and now we are over at 24/7 Sports. So update your bookmarks. Type in GoPowerCat.com. It'll take you to 24/7 Sports. If you're still going to Rivals, you're not seeing our work from our staff. So a lot of people are confused. We're still there. It's a better setup for everyone, and we hope our fans follow us over.
Yeah. Our second question is, it's just one game, but can Kansas get bowl eligible this year? From Sam Fleming via Facebook.
What do you think?
Eligible.
Let's look at the schedule real quick. They've got SEMO. They've got the win. They've got Central Michigan next week. They're favored to win.
Yep.
They've got Ohio. Good team.
Yeah.
Yep. Then you open up Big 12 play. West Virginia, but it's in Lawrence. Then you play host to Texas Tech. Possible.
Yep.
Go to Iowa State. Possible. Now let's say everything lines up that you could get 5 wins in there before you make the turn into the back half of the schedule, where it gets tougher, but you'd still have Texas and Baylor with
Yeah,
you.
and if everything goes well, yeah, that's not inconceivable for maybe even 7, which would have been kind of crazy to think maybe even a couple of months ago. But we'll know way more after the Central Michigan and Ohio game, non-conference. If they go 3-0 there, bowl game, I say yeah.
Well, and like I said, you can start believing in yourself. You start beating teams that you didn't think you could beat previously. Remember to ask us your questions on our Facebook page and on Twitter at The Drive 13. And when we return, we look at our predictions and results on The Drive. Welcome back as we head down the home stretch of this week's show. Now it's time to take a look at our predictions, and the predictions are brought to you by Vanderbilt's Your Work Boot Center. And remember to make your weekly predictions at thedriveshow.com. Let's look at last week's results. The viewers went 2-0. I went 2-0. Tom, whoever that guy is, went 2-0. And West Virginia and Virginia Tech are playing as we're recording this, so this was not good planning on our part. What did you expect us to be midseason form?
It's week
so
one.
We'll add that in at next week, no matter who wins. Hopefully it's West Virginia. But now let's move on to this week's picks and start with this very interesting line out of Las Vegas. Charlotte is a 35-point underdog at Kansas State. Now, granted, they just beat Central Arkansas by 36.
Yeah.
Thanks to a missed extra point. So I swear that's what they did. They said, let's just make it 35.
Yeah, this what could have been this. Yep. Knock it down 1 and let's do it.
Do you think Charlotte can cover 35 points?
Not the way the Cats looked last night.
I think Central Arkansas is the better of the two teams.
Yeah.
I will also take Kansas State on that 35-point line. They got to win by 36 or more. We'll see if they can do it.
Yeah, I think they can. Next is Central Michigan +3 at Kansas. I like the Jayhawks. Like I said, I think they have some momentum, and they continue that momentum.
Let's stop and recognize the fact that Kansas is the favorite at home now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What happened? Yeah.
And this is the same Central Michigan program that escalated quickly. That they won at Oklahoma State on the extra play last year. So this is a program that knows how to win. Mm-hmm. They're not elite MAC, but they're pretty darn good. And Kansas is favored. I will also take the Jayhawks, believe it or not. I think they're going to get a little head of steam going.
Yeah.
Our last game of the week is the very cold Iowa showdown. I don't know what they call it, actually.
Cyhawk, I think.
Yeah, I like very cold. It'll probably be 30 degrees for this
all
game.
Year.
Yes, it always is in Iowa. Iowa is a 1.5-point favorite in Ames. I find that intriguing. Iowa's good, but I'm never blown away by Iowa.
Yeah, they're kind of methodical. They had more questions than answers after their week 1 against Wyoming, I thought. Their defense looked good, but their offense was nothing special to me.
I'm going to take Iowa State.
Oh, really? Ooh. I'm going to go with Iowa.
Okay, very good. We have one different.
Yeah.
He takes Iowa for Tom. I got Iowa State. Again, folks, make your picks over at thedriveshow.com. We need your participation. Don't be shy. Let's hear from our viewers. Now it's time for our On the Clock segment, and we get to start with Mr. Chris Lilly filling in for Tom. You better be good because Tom's always so thoughtful.
He is always
He's
great.
just such a thoughtful
Yeah,
man.
absolutely. So what I'm going to talk about right now is a shout out to KU's Ryan Shadler. He's a terrific story if you haven't heard it already. He was a walk-on track athlete at Wichita State. Then he got the itch to play football, and David Beatty brought him on. And then he had some crazy medical issues to where his insides were literally moving in him. They couldn't figure out what was going on. He almost had to give up football. And then a year later, almost to the day, he was named the starter on Saturday, and he had 2 catches against SEMO. And it's just an incredible story to come through that. And then in 2005, he had a return kick for a touchdown against South Dakota State. But that toughness to come back and be able to play, David Beatty's commended him a few times and said he's just a tough kid. He's been the most excited for week 1, and he got that chance. I thought that was really cool.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
You know what? A lot of people have doubted Jesse Yurts. The poor guy blows out his knee to start the season 2 years ago, then injured his shoulder over the course of the season last year, just when he was figuring out the offense at Kansas State. So this last Saturday was the first time fans or opponents had seen a Jesse Yurts that is both comfortable in the Kansas State offensive system and healthy. And we saw the results. They only threw the ball 16 times. He had some drops, actually. He had some passes that should have been caught by receivers. He completed 10 for 330 yards, 33 yards, and 4 touchdowns. It was an awesome showing and sends a message to the Big 12 that you can't just outscore Kansas State this season. These Wildcats can score, and they can score quickly. And if you want to step up to the line of scrimmage and try to take away Jesse Yurts and Alex Barnes in the running game, they will throw it over the top of you, and that's a message that probably was heard loud and clear around the conference, Chris. Now, if this defense can shore up, get themselves a little bit improved, this Kansas State team could really make a serious run in the Big 12. But I also know this, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State looked legit.
Yes, they did, yeah. But I'm with you there. Jesse Yurts, complete package now. He's totally healthy, knows the offense. He's got really good receivers and a really good running back tandem back there. And offensive line's always great at K-State. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Well, thanks for filling in, partner.
Yeah,
Tom will be
Thanks.
back next week, so join us, and we will see you right here and all week on social media.